If you bought a laptop, a phone, or a television in 2024, you likely got a solid product at a fair price. If you buy the same type of product in 2026, there's a growing chance you'll pay more for something with less inside it. And the brand selling it to you won't mention what changed. This isn't speculation. Major PC manufacturers, including Dell, Lenovo, and HP, have already signaled price increases of 15 to 20% heading into this year. TrendForce, one of the largest tech industry research firms in the world, warned in late 2025 that manufacturers will increasingly reduce specifications on mid and low-range devices to hold familiar price points. Consumer Reports published a detailed warning to buyers in December. Buy your tech now, because 2026 is going to look very different. Something shifted underneath the electronics market, and it's affecting nearly every product category a regular person shops for, not just computers. Televisions, tablets, phones, game consoles, streaming devices, anything that uses memory chips. And the cause has nothing to do with the products themselves. It has to do with a fight happening far above the consumer in a world most buyers never think about. The consequences, though, are landing directly on the receipt. To understand what's happening, you have to start with one component, memory. Specifically, DRAM, the type of chip that allows a laptop to run multiple apps, a phone to stay responsive, or a smart TV to load its home screen without freezing. DRAM goes into nearly every electronic device sold today. And right now, the supply of it is being pulled away from consumer products at a pace that hasn't been seen in decades. The reason is artificial intelligence, not AI in the way marketing departments use the word, not a chatbot on your refrigerator or a voice assistant suggesting recipes. The version of AI that's causing this is the industrial kind. Companies like Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, and Oracle are collectively spending roughly $500 billion in 2026 building enormous data centers to power their AI platform. Those data centers require staggering amounts of memory, a specialized type called high bandwidth memory, or HBM. And the factories that make HBM are the same factories that make the memory chips in your laptop, your phone, and your television. This is a zero-sum problem. Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron control over 95% of the world's DRAM production. When those three companies shift factory capacity toward HBM, which generates 3 to 5 times higher profit margins, the supply of standard memory chips shrinks. IDC, one of the largest market research firms in tech, reported in February 2026 that this is not a typical cyclical shortage. It called it a strategic reallocation of the world's silicon wafer capacity. Every wafer that goes toward an AI data center chip is a wafer that doesn't become the memory module inside a mid-range phone or a $600 laptop. The effects are already visible. DRAM prices rose 172% through 2025, according to industry tracking. The cost of a single 64-gigabyte stick of RAM went from roughly $250 in September to over $1,000 by February. HP disclosed in its first quarter 2026 earnings call that memory now accounts for 35% of the cost of building a PC, up from around 15 to 18% just 1 quarter earlier. Micron, one of those 3 major memory producers, announced it would exit its consumer brand, Crucial, entirely, dropping the retail memory and storage business to focus on higher-margin AI customers. For the person shopping at Best Buy or Costco, though, the prices on the shelf may not look dramatically different, and that's where the quieter problem begins. TrendForce's senior research vice president, Avril Wu, predicted that manufacturers would respond to these cost pressures in 2 ways. High-end products would see outright price increases, but mid-range and low-end products, the ones most regular buyers actually purchase, would more likely undergo what the industry calls de-spec strategy. That means keeping the same model name, the same box design, and roughly the same price, while quietly reducing what's inside. Less RAM, a dimmer screen, a cheaper processor, a slower storage drive. The $600 laptop you buy next fall might look identical to the one you could have bought last year, but it may come with 8 gigabytes of RAM instead of 16. Consumer Reports called this electronics shrinkflation. It works the same way it does in the grocery store, except instead of a smaller bag of chips, it's a phone with a lower-tier display panel, or a tablet with less onboard storage, or a laptop that slows down 6 months after purchase because it didn't come with enough memory to run modern software comfortably. And it's not limited to computers and phones. The ripple reaches televisions too, though the mechanism is a little different. TV manufacturers don't put as much DRAM in a set as a laptop does, but they still need memory and storage chips for their smart platforms, processing engines, and user interfaces. TrendForce noted that when suppliers optimize for higher margin demand elsewhere, Mature node product categories like TVs feel the squeeze through less availability and less predictable pricing. That means certain TV models may quietly lose features, stay in production shorter, or get replaced by sets with slightly inferior specs at the same price. But the real shift happening with televisions in 2026 isn't about memory chips. It's about what the television has become after you bring it home. TV manufacturers have spent the last several years turning their products into advertising platforms. Samsung, LG, Roku, TCL, Hisense, and others now generate meaningful revenue not from selling hardware, but from the ads that run on their home screens, their built-in streaming channels, and the data they collect about what you watch. In early 2025, Samsung reported roughly 67 to 68 million Samsung smart TVs in US households, with the company tracking viewing behavior using automated content recognition, the same technology that captures a snapshot of whatever is on your screen, roughly every half second, and transmits that data back for advertising purposes. Roku reported over 90 million active accounts globally. TCL launched a major advertising partnership in April 2026 to sell programmatic ad access across its smart TV platform in more than 160 countries. The business model is straightforward. Keep TV hardware prices low enough to get maximum adoption, then monetize the screen time and viewer data after the sale. The buyer pays a low sticker price. The manufacturer earns the rest through advertising, data licensing, and home screen placements. This is why a 75-inch name brand TV can cost under $500 in 2026. The TV isn't the product, the person watching it is. And for some brands, this model has started crossing lines that regular buyers aren't prepared for. In March 2026, reports surfaced that Hisense TVS had begun displaying non-skippable advertisements during routine actions, not just on the home screen, but when switching HDMI inputs, turning the TV on, and even changing channels. Users reported that these ads appeared even after all advertising-related settings had been disabled, suggesting the behavior was pushed through firmware updates after purchase. Hisense responded by calling it a limited regional test in Spain, but user complaints spanned multiple countries and dated back to at least 2022. Tom's Hardware, TechSpot, and Android Authority all covered the pattern, noting the disconnect between the company's framing and the geographic spread of the reports. This sits alongside the December 2025 lawsuits filed by the Texas Attorney General against 5 major TV manufacturers: Samsung, LG, Sony, Hisense, and TCL, for allegedly collecting and selling detailed viewing data through ACR technology without meaningful consumer consent. Courts issued temporary restraining orders against Hisense and Samsung in Texas, blocking certain data collection practices while the cases proceed. The allegations describe a system where anything displayed on the screen, cable feeds, gaming consoles, security cameras, even photos cast from a phone, could be captured and monetized. What this all adds up to across every product category is a shift in what buying electronics actually means in 2026. You are no longer simply purchasing a device. You are entering a business arrangement where the manufacturer has ongoing financial interests in what happens after the sale, through data, through ads, through the slow erosion of what you thought you owned. And this is where the memory shortage and the advertising transformation intersect in a way most people haven't considered. The more expensive memory chips become, the harder it is for manufacturers to maintain their margins on hardware alone. That pressure accelerates the pivot toward post-sale monetization. It gives companies a stronger incentive to treat devices as platforms rather than products, to subsidize hardware with surveillance and advertising rather than charging a fair price for a complete, self-contained device. The Visan Electronics CEO warned in February 2026 that many consumer electronics companies may not survive the year. His prediction was blunt. Companies that can't secure memory components simply won't be able to keep operating. Smaller brands will exit product categories. The ones that remain will be the ones with enough scale to absorb rising costs, or enough advertising infrastructure to make up the difference on the back end. That's the landscape right now. The consumer electronics market in 2026 is not broken in the way you'd notice at a glance. The stores are still full. The prices on many products still look competitive. But what's inside those products is quietly shrinking. And what those products do after you buy them is quietly expanding. You're paying a sticker price that looks reasonable, but the true cost includes reduced specifications, escalating ad exposure, and a data relationship you didn't ask for and may not fully understand. If you're shopping for electronics this year, there are a few things worth knowing. First, these specifications on mid-range and budget products may be lower than what the same price bought a year ago. Check RAM, storage, and display specs carefully rather than trusting a model name. Second, smart TVs are no longer passive displays. They are networked advertising platforms, and the cheaper the TV, the more aggressively it may monetize your attention after purchase. Third, the memory shortage is expected to last well into 2027 at minimum, which means the current pricing pressure is not temporary. And fourth, if a deal on a new device looks too good, it's worth asking what the company plans to earn from you after the sale, because in 2026, the purchase price is increasingly just the opening offer.